So, my actual subject for today is a book that I've been reading called The Gap versus the Gain. And I'm not saying you need to run out and get this book. I'm going to give you a little bit of overview. I think it's actually just on Audible. I don't even think you can get a physical book. You might be able to get it on Kindle. But Sid actually recommended it to me a number of months ago, and I finally finished it. And it's how it's funny, you will start a book and you maybe get something out of it, or you don't get something out of it, so it kind of gets shelved for a little bit. And that's what happened to that book. He actually mentioned another one of his books in the very beginning of that book, and somehow I got sidetracked onto the next book, which is exactly what this book is about. What's so funny about it is I got sidetracked on his next book because I was so eager about the title of that and learning what was in that next book. I never finished the first one. And it's funny because that is the actual subject at hand here. So I want to talk to you guys about the gap versus the gain and where you're living. And I took tons of notes on this and things that I wanted to talk about this morning. But it also made me realize we're coming up on that September time frame, right? Where like we start to, we put our goals together in January and we start on that path and we're doing our things and we're doing all things, and we get to September and it's almost like the next new year for me anyways, because it's a time to like reset, refocus, and go back to figure out, like what goals did we accomplish so far. And school starts back. So those of you who have kids, it kind of like resets your focus. And then we have this 120 days till the end of the year. And a lot of people do these like last 90-day runs starting in October. So I think what I really want to cover for all of September is a little bit of can-do review, a little bit of goal setting, a little bit of habit stacking and breaking some bad habits, starting some new habits, figuring out what we really want, and then kind of the steps that we're going to take to get there. We're going to do this living in the gain, not the gap, because now that I've seen what this can actually do and self-sabotage you into staying stuck, we're going to try to shift how we do this for the last 90-day run. So all of September is going to be kind of like going back and unlearning some bad habits, learning some new habits on goal setting and how we can break out of living in that gap. And then we're going to go on a 90-day run together here every, let's call it Monday or Tuesday morning. We haven't figured that out yet. So we're going to do that together. We're going to, one thing that I talked a lot about is go be great. Getting in your gratitude first thing in the morning. A lot of us have already done that. That's a big part of this. Getting in your reading or your personal development on a daily basis. Getting in at least 20 minutes of exercise. If you're in my stories most mornings, I'm in there and I'm talking to you about me getting out there and at least getting my brain up and running for the first, few minutes of the day. But one of those is accountability. And so these Zooms all years ago started as accountability Zooms, somewhere to kind of land and reset and refocus and get going again, and hold ourselves accountable to what we're doing on this business adventure, our side hustles, the goals that we have. So this is a place I want you to feel like for the next 120-ish days, we're going to learn and unlearn some good and bad behaviors. And then we're going to go on a 90-day run together. And I'm going to set that up so that we all do it together. We aren't all going to have the same goals. Maybe your last 90-day run is weight loss and someone else's is a new rank or a new development in their business or new partnerships, or it could be a number of things. Maybe it's the amount of money someone's saving for the last 90 days. So everybody's going to have different goals. So I want you to join me for that, kind of prepare all of September. We're going to do some work and get some goals set in the right way. And then we're going to go out and run them for the last 90 days together and hold each other accountable. Okay, so what does it actually mean to live in the gap versus the gain? So when you're thinking about the end point of where you want to go, what that goal is, and you're continuously focusing on that end point and never really celebrating any of the small wins along the way, and we're constantly setting ourselves up for an ideal, a future vision of what that would look like. And that's where we want to live. But we don't actually set the markers along the way and the goals along the way to feel accomplished. And so we're constantly looking down into that dip of what haven't I done yet? Why haven't I gotten there yet? And that brings your mindset to a whole other place. So have you ever heard the saying, like, depression and anxiety are at an all-time high? For a lot of people around the world, I feel like I've heard more of those two words in the last 20 years than I've ever heard before, and especially the anxiety part. While depression, I feel like, has been around forever, the anxiety part, really everybody uses that term so much. And I challenge you to be careful about saying that about yourself. I hear it out of almost everyone's mouth nowadays, including my own. But depression is the act of looking back at the past, looking at where we've been and the things that either make us happy or unhappy about what we've accomplished since then. So looking back at the past is what causes depression, and anxiety is looking too forward into the future and not living in the present. So I will say social media, I believe, creates so much anxiety for people because we're constantly measuring ourselves against what other people are doing that are ahead of us in our journey. And so then that's where that anxiety comes in, because we feel like we're not doing enough, we're not doing it quick enough, we're not as good as that next person. And so that really has a lot to do with living either in the gap or the gain. A lot of people get stuck here, and I feel it myself sometimes. And I since reading this book and really doing some like digging on it now, when I feel a little bit of that depression seeping in, or a little bit of anxiousness seeping in, I'm stopping myself and I'm asking myself where the thoughts are coming from. Why am I feeling that way? Have I not sat to be in gratitude yet today? Am I thinking about things in the past that could have, would have, should have been? Or am I feeling a little bit anxious and I'm looking so far out at that big, bad, hairy, scary goal that I've lost sight of all the things I've accomplished in the middle of that? And so I'm just super anxious about continuously missing that big, hairy, scary goal, or not getting there yet, right? It's almost like we try to teach our kids, Luke left for school this morning. He's in 10th grade and he's like, oh, here it goes, starting 9 more months of this. And I'm like, oh gosh, looking back at that, how easy life was, how enjoyable 10th and 11th and 12th grade was, and how easy life was then when someone was still paying the bills. And really all I had to worry about was when was the next Friday night football game at home, or where were my friends getting together, or what next fun thing were we going to do. And I know what he's thinking. He's living in the game, or he's living in the gap right now of, I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. I don't want to ride the bus. I'm almost 16. I want to drive a car, all of the things, right? He's living in that gap. And he really has no idea how easy life is right now. I mean, a lot of our kids are in that same boat. But we tell them and teach them, like, don't, we're always like, when we're that age, we're like, oh, I can't wait to be 16. I want to drive a car. Oh, I can't wait to be 18 because then I can move out and get my own place. I can't wait until I get married. I can't wait until I have kids. And then you get to the point where you're looking back and going, I couldn't wait for all of those things. And I was always looking forward to the next thing. And I was never enjoying the pieces and parts in between, the messy journey along the way. So I am working really hard on the goals that I have right now in my life. I'm actually going to go back and do this massive exercise with you guys all the way through the month of September. I'm going to take some time really mapping out these goals, because along with that map of goals, I want to have a very solid plan of how I am celebrating along the way. I'm having fun with what I'm doing, because when we look back at things that we've accomplished after we've gotten there, you lost sight of the joy that was in the journey of it, because we were living so far in that gap and not in the gain. Here's some examples. I want to lose 50 pounds, right? You lose 40 and you keep going, and then you gain 5 back. And so then you stop and you sit in that and you beat yourself up, and we throw ourselves into self-defeat. And quite possibly set yourself into a self-sabotage mode, which could actually stall you even faster or even more in quicksand, trying to get to that 50-pound weight loss. You may have lost 40 pounds, then you gained 5 back. So you've lost overall 35 pounds, not celebrating that, just constantly looking that you have not met that 50 yet. And because you're now sitting in that gap, you may never get to the game because it's a big ideal out here and you haven't celebrated or loved yourself for the win enough along that journey. So concentrate on the 35, celebrate the 35, celebrate that you're able to get a new wardrobe because now you have 35 pounds gone, and celebrate all of the things that come with the better health and the breathing easier and the exercises getting easier, and you're enjoying the journey of doing that. Maybe another example is you want the top rank of your company. And so a lot of people get into network marketing and they look all the way to the top. What is the top of the top of the top that I can reach? And we set some small goals along the way, maybe some other ranks, but we surpass those ranks and then we just keep looking towards the top, and we don't stop long enough to go back and count all the steps that got us to that first, second rank. We stop doing those things because we think something different is supposed to happen once you reach the 3rd and 4th rank. Well, then you reach the 4th rank, you never reach the 5th rank, you drop back to the 3rd rank, and you get stuck there because all you're doing is measuring yourself based on your failure, not on the success of what got you to that first 1, 2, 3 rank in the first place. Does that make sense? It's a tough place to be sitting all the time, is in a gap mentality of what I didn't do, what I haven't accomplished, where I'm trying to go, but I'm not reaching there because, and all of the things you should have celebrated along the way between 1, 2, and 3 rank are all the things you should still be doing because they were the fun things. They were the things that got you there in the first place. They were the things that were the most effective in building your business. But we got there and forgot them because we were so busy looking still towards the future. I had an event. Here's a good example. I had an event company we created a number of years ago, and we did it up, man. We put it at a really great location for not to get to, because Mackinac Island is quite the adventure, planes, trains, and automobiles, and horse buggy rides, and all of the things. But it was at the Grand Hotel, and so it was grand, and it was amazing, and it was going to be a wonderful setting for an end of the summer massive leadership, self-development type conference, right? And so we put a ton of investment into it. We put a ton of time in it. At the time, we had one of the most popular authors and speakers at that time, which was Rachel Hollis, was our headliner. That was not an easy feat. That was a hard thing to put together. We had hundreds of people attending. We had some of the biggest speakers in network marketing like Ray Higdon and Rob Sperry and Fraser Brooks. We had an amazing lineup. We did an incredible job. People left that event and absolutely loved how we put it together. We did a great thing. We had to, if I would have been focused on the gap of that, the gap was, it was a lose event for us, you guys. Business wise, we lost our butts. It was in the negative. We did not make money on that event. We went into massive debt, but we were launching an event company, and we knew that it was going to take 3-4 events before we were in the positive. That's just how businesses go. When you open a storefront, you have loans, you have debts, you have all the things until you have a couple of years of business under your belt and you start to go into the positive, right? So as an event company, we knew that was going to happen. If I stayed focused on the gap though, we would have never made it to the second event. I was focused on how amazing we did, what the speaker lineup was. We had pulled off something that I thought was pretty incredible. And I lived in that game big time for that one. And it's one of those times where I can look back and go, I did it right. The end of that story is not good, and I will share it because I am transparent. But the next steps were we needed to throw the next event. And so we did. We scheduled it for 6 months later. I don't even know what we were thinking, but we were. And we did it in Naples, Florida, and again had an amazing lineup. We had one of my favorite authors speak, from the author of The Miracle Morning, and we had Hal Elrod, and we had amazing network marketing leadership again. We had Danelle Delgado there speaking. We had Ray Higdon again. We had Fraser Brooks again. We had Rob Sperry again. And that was only 6 months after our first event, you guys. I don't know what we were thinking, but we were living in the game, right? So we did that event and we came super close to break even finally after all that time. We still had some debt. We were still pulling out. We knew we needed to get to that next event and we might be at zero and starting to gain. And so we were making little headway along the way and staying focused on those gains. And then the pandemic happened. What do you think happens in a pandemic? You have to shut down all live events and people can't get together. And so as a startup company, there was no way we could pull out of that. There was no way to hold us over until you could have live in-person events again. We owed. And so that business shut down and it failed, right? And I could stay stuck there in that gap. I could have very easily stayed stuck there in that gap. But I chose not to. I have learned, and I still look back at that as, well, I mean, no one ever wants to shut down a business and have a failure on their record. I don't look at that as a failure. We created so many relationships out of those events. We created a massive network of people. We learned so much about how to run and improve events. We learned how to take a lot of pressure and turn it into magic. We learned so much through that. I will never, that was a master's degree in college, learning through those 2 events. I will never get stuck in the gap of that because it was such an amazing experience and I learned so much. However, there are definite parts of my business life that I get stuck in the gain, and entrepreneurs can get stuck in the gain so easily, you guys. I'm sorry, the gap so easily, because we are already programmed to be looking for the next thing. And so it's almost like climbing a mountain, right? So you have this mountain standing in front of you and you're like, I'm going to get to the top of that. I have this goal. I want to get that rank. I'm going to climb to the top of that mountain. So all you're focused on is the climb of that mountain. You are not sitting back each time you cross one of the passes and saying, wow, how did I do that? I did that in record time. I did that. That was amazing. We get to the top of that mountain and all of a sudden we're like, whoop, there's another mountain behind here with an even bigger peak. I gotta go. I can't stop here. I gotta go. Never celebrating that big win of getting to the top of that first mountain. We are on to the next one. And we're climbing and we're climbing. And all we can do is see the top, and we're slipping back and we're getting stuck. And we're slipping back and we're getting stuck. We forgot how we even climbed the first mountain because we got so stuck in the gap and not the gain of what we had accomplished. We never took note. We never slowed down. We never looked to see how we got there in the first place. So now we're trying to go up the second one and not even using the experience from the first one because we never even gave ourselves any credit for it. We're just, let's go. Second mountain. Oh my gosh, it got to the top. What's behind that? Oh my God, another mountain. I gotta go. There's another goal. I gotta climb. There's another thing I want to achieve. There's another thing. And you continuously do this as an entrepreneur. And it's why entrepreneurship can actually have the most depression and anxiety attached to it, because we are constantly looking towards the next thing without celebrating the wins in between that we have. A couple of things about how can we learn to live in the now? How can we? We're going to work through some of this in September. Like I said, I want to create an entirely new set of goals. We'll start running on those right away, but along the way, we're going to start putting some checkpoints in. We're going to start putting some places that we can write down the lessons that we learned from week to week, from month to month, and we're going to start celebrating some smaller wins. One of the biggest things is gratitude every morning. I really, if you're not doing that yet, I highly, highly encourage you, even if it's 5 things, 10 things, get down on paper 5 or 10 things you're grateful for every single day. The gratitude is your high vibe creator, honestly. It's also plays very heavily into the law of attraction. If you believe in the law of attraction, what we put out there, we get more of. And if we're constantly living in the gap of what we didn't accomplish and how we're not there yet, that's what we're going to get more of. And if we're continuously living in the state of gratitude and putting our gratitude down on paper and visualizing that gratitude each and every single day, all the things we have accomplished, how did we get there? When we reached that rank, what was the reward? Are we enjoying that reward? You put that gratitude down, you're going to get more of what you're wanting. Okay, so if you're not already putting in gratitude each and every morning, I highly, highly recommend that you start, and it will be a part of the plan for us moving forward. When you start feeling impatient, make a list of all the good things that have happened in the journey. So I'm on a new journey myself right now, and it is very easy for me to look all the way to the top because I only know the top. Like, that's where I'm headed. I'm not stopping along the way. I'm not slowing down. And that's how I've lived a lot of my life until now. And so when I read this book, I was like, wow, I got to do a better job of celebrating some of these wins along the way. So when I map out this journey, which I feel like I've already kind of mapped it out, but I want to completely come in and redo it so that I have some stopping points along the way. I'm going to actually do some reflection over the last few months of this journey. And I'm going to go and write some things down that were good that have happened along this journey so that I can be grateful for what I've already accomplished, because a lot has already been accomplished and I'm not really giving myself credit for it. And when we're not giving ourselves credit for it and we work in a team environment, we're probably not giving those around us or the team around us as much credit as they deserve too. So one of the things that you can do when you start feeling impatient about your journey is stop. Figure out why you're feeling impatient and go back and write down all of the things that you have accomplished along the way and celebrate those small wins. We have to figure out a system for when I do this, I'm going to do this. So I'll ask you, what is your big goal? What are we going to accomplish in the next 90 days? Because when we work on this stuff in September, that's what we'll be aiming for, is what are we going to accomplish by the end of the year? And then we're going to work backwards. And that's what a lot of this, measuring in the gap or the gain has to deal with. The gap, the permanent distance between where you are and your unreachable ideal, the vision you have for what it's going to look like when you get there, right? The mini McMansion you're going to build, the debt you're going to pay off, the new car you're going to buy when you get there. Instead, always measure from where you started and where you are now, so that you can look back and say, all right, I know where I'm at. I have not reached where I want to go yet. That goal is going to take a little while for me, and I know that. But am I looking back to see what I've accomplished thus far? Because some of those things worked and I need to take them on the rest of my journey. I also need to celebrate it so that I'm living in gratitude and not in lack. And that's really what the premise of this whole thing is living your life in a sense of gratitude for what you've accomplished and giving ourselves some credit instead of always focusing on what we're lacking. The gain is where you can appreciate everything that you've achieved. You're measuring actual reality, the progress of the things you've done, rather than the ideal of where you want to be and feeling like, oh, I just haven't done it yet. I'm just not good enough. I just don't think I'm ever going to get there. And that's what your law of attraction, that's what you're giving off every single day, is the lack of where you want to be. And then that just keeps you stuck there. The ideal is not reality, it's a feeling, and you can't measure feelings. The picture you have of yourself in the future is make-believe. It only becomes possible when the goals you've set along the way to get there are measurable and you check in on them. So that is what we're going to do together. I hope that this helped you guys a little bit this morning. Really, just if you can sit and draw a line from here to where you want to go by the end of the year, and then let's work on that over the next 30 days as we get on here on Mondays or Tuesday mornings. I will keep you posted. And let's set up a plan, and then we're going to stay accountable to that plan and celebrate some wins along the way of that last 90 days of the year. So I hope you guys have a fabulous Monday and an even more fabulous week. It's kind of a short week. We're heading into a holiday, and I will keep you guys posted on what we're going to do starting next week as a schedule. I appreciate your patience. See you soon.